Any committee of a whole meeting for Tuesday, November 15th. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If we can all rise for Pledge of Allegiance.
Everything got moved around after elections.
I'm
so
sure it did.
Apologize for that.
I'd like to make roll call. Everybody is present minus Councilman Lundin. He did notify Josie Wood and myself that he would not be here until the city council meeting. Any public comment at this time? None at this time. Let's go into the committee meeting items with E1, liquor updates. Hello, Keith.
Hello, Mayor Johnson and council members. As you can see in the updates before you, I'm not going to go through all the numbers, but I'll summarize for you. But August, we were up 27% over last year. September, we were up 32%. October, we were up 25%. Year to date through the end of October, we're at $4,651,529.12. We've got a profit margin of around 27%, which was what we're aiming for, and we've been averaging up about 27% each month over last year. So my estimate is we should be able to hit 5.4 million in sales by the end of the year, which is about, oh, there you go. That's a lot louder. Yeah, sorry. So we should hit 5.4 million in sales by the end of the year, which is about 1.3 million over last year. So we're very excited about that, and are looking forward to even more sales next year. I did break the sales down by category. They've stayed pretty steady throughout the year. Beers at 49%, liquor 34%, wine 11%, 6% stuff, which is pop, juice, mix, 3%, tobacco 2%, and non-alcoholic 1%. We are seeing a lot more wine sales now that it's November, December, holiday season and stuff, so that number should increase by the end of the year. Transaction count, we're at 145,519 transactions, which is a lot more than previous years. MMBA supply drives, we've done the MMBA Fire Department fundraiser. We were able to raise almost 3,800, and the food supply drive was just ended the end of October. We raised $1,922. So we're happy to be able to give back to the community in that way as well. Online sales, those are up and running, launched in September. September sales, we had $365.16. October sales, we had $1,003.27. That's something that's still fairly new, and we continue to kind of fine tune, make sure everything looks good on the website and find ways to do things better. We're seeing some good results with that. It's not on my notes here, but we had an email the other day, and I know it's a direct result of our e-commerce platform, because we had somebody asking about, hey, we're looking at doing a wedding next summer, or we are getting married next summer, but we're trying to figure out where to get our alcohol from, and they're looking at about 60 cases of beer, about a $2,800 sale, and they want to know, they found all what we have in that specific email address on our City Hive page, so that's kind of exciting to see. Our first annual anniversary celebration's coming up this weekend. We're going to have tastings, giveaway items to sign up for, special sale prices, and cookies. Friday is going to be 10% off all liquor. Saturday is going to be 10% off all wine, and Sunday will be 10% off all beer. So we've been promoting the event in the store and online. We've had feedback from customers as people are pretty excited about it, and I'm excited to see what it does. And it's also exciting to have been in the store for a year, full year on the 18th. So I'm looking forward to that. And then the last thing is just a shout out to all the liquor store staff. I just wanted to share with you guys a conversation I had with an older gentleman the other day who was looking for some whiskey, and he's the kind of guy that likes to shop around and check out different stuff, and I was showing him all the different things, and I had mentioned that he could look online and see what our stock is, and he stopped and looked at me, and he said, why would I do that? I want to come in here. I love seeing you guys, I love talking to you guys, and for me, I mean, it wouldn't be the same if I didn't get to come in here and talk to you guys, so I thought that was priceless. I mean, you can't measure that
Kudos
with
to
money.
you guys.
Yeah, so that's all I have. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Yeah, I got a question. So the percentage of increase before we put up the billboard compared to afterwards, have you noticed an increase in the increase?
It's hard to measure that.
Okay.
Are you talking about the online?
I'm talking about the whole ball of wax. You're
Yeah.
talking about, we had this amount of increase in August and this amount of increase in, I just
Yep.
want to know, before you put the billboard up, if the increase has gone up.
Yeah, the current billboard we have, we pay $250 a month for. It's not an ideal billboard. They gave us a better price than they would anybody else on that. Because I don't know if you remember, but we had a different one, and then they figured out that they had a lease signed on that. They sold us a billboard that wasn't available. So we are looking to get a better billboard, one that's lit up at night especially. But I don't have a way to measure, sales increase because of that billboard. I hear people talk about it, so I know that people notice it, but I don't have specific numbers for you.
I forget, did we get that up before the end of summer?
That, I don't remember. I know that we have it now for a full year. It was switching back and forth, like we'd have it for a month, and I think Domino's had it for a month, and then we got it for a month, but now we're on it for a year.
So the donation, for the fire department and the food shelf, was that all, when you go in there and they ask if you want to round it up?
Yep. So every penny went to the fire department.
Those are some pretty impressive numbers.
Yeah. One of the comments that I had from Al Yankovic was he had the Cambridge fire chief asking him how the heck he got such a great deal with the liquor store, because the liquor store in Cambridge hadn't mentioned anything to them, and they weren't doing a fundraiser. But we're pretty proactive on that. I hope you guys have noticed that, like we want to be community oriented. We want to give back as much as we can and, reflect good on the city as well. So, I mean, we're giving back those numbers. It's not costing us anything, and we're actually getting a lot of great PR out of it too. And my staff take a lot of pride in being able to help with that stuff too, so.
I just think that a couple times I went in there, they asked me if I wanted to round up, and it was, we're talking 10 or 12 cents.
Yeah. It's a lot of
So
money.
they have those kind of numbers on
Mhm.
that small of a donation.
Yep, we're talking change at a time, so.
That's really cool. That's
Mhm.
awesome.
Yep, and the firefighters, they're very happy too, and, I don't know a lot of firefighters, but I'm assuming a lot of them probably like to have a drink once in a while too, so, I mean, if we're giving back to them, I'm sure they're more likely to support us too, so.
They might come and put your fire out.
Yeah.
$3,800 though was the total number, huh?
Yeah, $3,784.48.
They were gonna use that for a blitz nozzle or something like that.
Yep.
And I think they got some other donation from somewhere else too, and so now we've got enough to do that. So I know that was really appreciated for sure, that donation from the liquor store, so.
Yeah, and we had the ladder truck out there one day, too, with the flag raised up tall, and it looked really cool, and, a lot of people were excited about it, so.
What was the highest year at the old location in the liquor store?
4.175 was the last year we were there. And we were really excited to break 4 million because that was the goal for many years. So we was really happy to end last year at 4.1, and to be able to hopefully hit 5.4 this year. I'm really, really happy about that. So I hope you guys are too.
What were we at this time last year?
We ended last year, so we didn't get into the new store until November 18th, but we ended gross sales 4.175 million.
And we're at 4.6.
We're at 4.6
As of
the end
October.
October. So to hit my goal of 5.4, we need to do 400,000 a month, which shouldn't be an issue.
Seems to be our average
So, yeah,
at the low end.
yep, so,
Sounds like, to me, it was a good move to go to the east side.
yeah, we do see a lot of traffic from 65, that's for sure. a lot of traffic. And if we are able to get that sign out there, like hopefully this spring, that should really help sales as well. Because right now, we are still kind of hidden, but our biggest thing is word of mouth. I mean, that's the best advertising you can have. That comes from having good prices, good selection, and most of all, good customer service. So, but if we can get a few more signs out there, low cost, got that website up and running, you know, the first 6 months of that are free. After that, we're paying $50 a month. That's great advertising too, because people can access that night or day, you know?
Have you noticed that online sales, I mean, it's still obviously early in that, but, you know, are the cart sizes bigger than you would see in store, or, I mean,
I think it's mainly convenience.
yeah,
So I think it's people looking at, seeing what we have. Another example, we had somebody from like Mendota Heights or someplace down south came up here because they saw we had a wine that they were looking for. They found it on our website and came up and bought it in the store. So, and those are the ones we know about. Not everybody's gonna tell you,
Right.
you know, why they're there. Most people aren't, but it's nice to get that feedback once in a while and be able
Well,
to
and
share that with you
that
guys
comment
too.
from that guy there, I mean, that's, every manager loves to hear
Oh,
something like that. mean,
I
that's-
had a big smile on my
yeah,
face
you-
after
you
that.
tell people that, you know, I want them to come in here and I want them to come here and shop here because they want to see you. I mean, that's, you know, sell yourself more than the product, right? So
Yep,
that's awesome to hear that.
yep.
I think we had multiple scrutinies on this liquor store when we started, and one of them was, we didn't want to have it here and move it over there, it's not going to be a good idea. The other, I think the numbers are proving that wrong. The other one was, we didn't want a bond for this liquor store, and I think Mr. Becker could touch base, and that was the only choice that we had.
I brought it up with the old liquor store manager for 3-4 years, I bet, about moving it to the east side to catch the northbound traffic, and
I think everything
Never-
is speaking for itself, though,
going,
minus why we bonded versus not. You know, it's, a lot of people say if we can't afford it, why'd we do it? But I think, Mr. Becker, you explained it to me the best yesterday than I've heard it explained in a while.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, our goal has been to be debt-free, right? We talk about being levy debt-free. Enterprise funds are a different deal, right? They're not paid through tax dollars, and in the end is, if we wanted to make that shift to the east side of 65 and be able to scoop up that northbound traffic, which is where the market is, right? Everybody in Isanti was already drinking all they care to drink. If you're gonna increase sales substantively, it has to be from people outside of Isanti, hence you move to the east side. Really, the only way to make that work in a timely fashion was the bond. If we were gonna say that, all right, we have this plan, we'll set this money aside, there was no way you were gonna do it anything less than 10 years to save that money. And at that point, to meet that time horizon and actually have the cash, that was probably gonna mean ending the transfer to the general fund. And that, you know, we talked about that at one point in time as well, and that's, you know, a roughly 15% increase in the tax rate, and that happens overnight. The path that we're on, we continue that transfer, we continue to pay the debt service, which will be coming up here, our first payment will be coming up here next month. And when the bonds are paid off, and for sure in 15 years, if not before that, we should reasonably expect that the transfer to the general fund goes up another $250,000, if not more. And then you're looking at another 10 or 15% decrease in the tax rate, just like that.
So whoever's sitting in this room in 10 years is going to be sitting pretty well because of this council's decision.
I think so.
and then if we would've waited 10 years, that property probably wouldn't be available.
That was a risk. Yeah, and when we endeavored upon this, when we first started talking about this, the last full year data that we had was 2018, and I think at that point we had just barely crossed 3 million in sales. And at the time, the market study said, all right, if you're in the new store, you're on the east side of 65, you should reasonably expect that within 3 full years, you'll hit 4.5 million. Well, obviously, we're kind of blowing that out of the water already, so that's a good deal. And the profit margin is still at that roughly 27% that we've been at for a number of years, even in the old store, but we're bringing through a lot more people. We're selling a lot more product.
So the numbers are proving themselves and why we did put the liquor store over there, and hopefully the naysayers of saying why we bonded for this liquor store understand it better now so than than ever, and if not, I would encourage them to talk to Mr. Becker. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Keith? We'll move on to E2, the setting date for goal-setting workshop.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So it's been the practice of the City of Isani to have an annual goal-setting workshop to develop a consensus in determining the top priorities of the year, as well as looking into the future of Isani. Many projects and many initiatives that the city takes on is a multi-year task, and we, staff needs to be able to balance the workload that we have ongoing for operations and running the city, as well as looking at new initiatives. So in the last few years, we have set that to be the fourth Monday evening in January. Prior to 4 years, we've done it different times. It's been during the day at 8:30. I think the council prior had expressed interest in keeping it in the evening because it's better well-attended. If people do want to come, it is open to the public, and then everybody can come after a work schedule. If we wanted to look at the fourth Monday in January 2023, that would put us on January 23rd. If we wanted to look at the fifth Monday, because we have 5 Mondays in January, that would be the 30th. The goal setting from this year was set at 5:30 PM, so looking to know if we want to keep it at 5:30 or what time we'd like to set it at.
I mean, I was kind of looking to get the 5 Tuesdays. I mean, if we kept it on a Tuesday, that might work out well. I don't know.
So we do have the park board meeting.
Oh, that's right, yeah, okay.
On the fourth Tuesday, so on January 25th would be a park board meeting at 6 PM.
Right, but there's a 5th Tuesday too, isn't there?
Oh, that's 22, it's even there. So yes, it would be, yeah, we would have January 31st, a 5th Tuesday. Thank you.
How's Luke out here?
I'm fine with that.
January 31st is what I'm hearing at 5 PM?
That'd be good for me, I don't know.
5 or 3, or 5:30?
Well, you said 5:30?
This year was 5:30, 2022 is 5:30.
That sounds fine.
Yeah, that sounds good.
You know, Steve always says that he can't make it before
So-
any morning, so I think that'd be good for him.
This, oh, I'm sorry?
I was just commenting on
Councilman Lundin says he can't be here sometimes at those times. Hopefully he has no scrutiny on that date and time.
All right, well, staff will set it at Tuesday, January 31st at 5:30 PM. All the council meeting and board commission meeting dates for 2023 will be presented at the December 6th city council meeting for consideration of approval. And it could be at that time that we look at the date to change if need be. Thank you.
We'll move on to E3, the draft ordinance and regulations for the cannabinoid products.
All
Okay.
right, thank
Did I
you,
say that
Mayor,
right?
Mayor and council. So,
I was reading earlier today, and
Yeah. Did I say that right? Say it again?
cannabinoids,
Cannabinoids?
Cannabinoids.
It's cannabis.
I thought you said
What did I
Cannabis
say?
products.
Kenwood.
the fancy
Cannabinoid?
words cannabinoids. So as we discussed at the
Cannabinoid
July
cannabis.
19th Committee of the Whole meeting, there was new legislation passed in July earlier this year that put new things into place. And it was decided at that time that council wanted to work on a moratorium or an interim ordinance for staff to be able to research this further. Staff has done so diligently, trying to make sure that we don't take longer than we need to, but it is quite a process of looking at implementing a new ordinance. This would be an entirely new chapter. When the state did pass the Legislation Act, they didn't put very many parameters in place for local jurisdictions to handle this. They just assumed that they would do it on their own. Now, there could be things that come down the pipeline that maybe do put more parameters, but at this time, there is not. So you have the draft ordinance before you. What I've done is I've put together a full new chapter. This would be adding in, we number it as Chapter 298. It would be its own city code chapter titled Cannabinoid Products. This would be similar, like we have licensed, liquor, and we have tobacco as separate chapters as well, so this places it as a separate chapter. In there, we do look at the purpose and intent of having such an ordinance, a license requirement. A staff is recommending that we do license this, similar to being licensed as tobacco and also as liquor. We do have other requirements in there of selling it, and really the requirements that we put in there for selling just mirrors the state statute. And I did include the statute number in most places, as well as the wording as amended from time to time. So as the state does change the statutes, our ordinance would stay in place and not have to be amended. But we didn't put in more provisions beyond what the state had already done. So for example, the product can't be marketed to children. It has to be, you have to be 21 years of age or older to sell, or to purchase, sorry. And those
to
are all
sell?
things
Is
that's
it
set by
21
statute.
Is it 21 years old or older to sell to?
That is not defined, nope. So, and we did not put a
Can
provision.
an 18-year-old sell cigarettes?
Yes,
Okay, but they can't buy cigarettes.
correct.
But they can smoke cigarettes, right?
Not legally.
You just said yes.
Oh, excuse me, they could possess it, correct. Yes.
Really?
Is that gonna be the same thing with, is that gonna be the same thing with the cannabinoids? It won't be, so you have to.
So the state statute just states that they cannot purchase it unless you're 21.
But you can have it in your possession, chief, or?
I was not able to find anything with that. Did you see
not
anything?
aware of
I have not found anything like that. Again, that's,
You're not
it's
aware of
pretty
it, or you-
vague.
I
or-
haven't found that, with tobacco is 18 to possession, but with this one, I don't know if they've even addressed it.
Okay, thank you.
So for zoning, we did, we don't need to consider too much for zoning unless the council desires to see something different. Staff is recommending that this be permitted as a retail, at a retail establishment, which is already permitted within our B1 and B2 business districts. There are a number of other cities out there that are having them be conditional uses in those districts, so then there's an additional application and review process. We did not feel that that would be warranted, but it is up for discussion if you wanted to consider regulating it further. I think by having the license requirement in place, then staff would be able to be aware of who's selling it, just like we are with liquor and tobacco. And then if we are doing compliance checks, which is something that the state outlines, which is in this ordinance as well, the chief and his staff would be able to know exactly what they would be looking at for compliance, for which businesses were permitted to sell it and which were not. Otherwise, it's pretty vague to enforce a lot with this new law that they put into place. We did include in here that there is a provision that can be discussed further about being located near youth facilities, so daycare facilities and schools. I did see that at all the other ordinances that I reviewed in other cities. I do have that in this one. If we want to consider not having that provision in there, please let me know if you'd like to discuss that further. I think that the research on why we would put in a distance, which would be property line to property line, or it could be door to door, however you'd like to define that, is to make sure that our residents feel that their children that go to establishments for like a daycare facility or a school are protected even farther, and by not being right next to a facility selling something like that. Because even though they can't market to kids, having sometimes grape flavored things can still feel like it can appeal.
What if, for example, Mobile gas station wants to sell them, there's daycare right behind them.
A lot of gas stations are selling it. I was on
Right,
my way up north.
yeah.
And I pulled off on Highway 35 going to Duluth, and the gas station was already selling it right there.
I mean,
So that's up for discussion. If council doesn't want to have that provision there, I can strike that out before we post this and have it bring to council or come to council.
I guess.
Because you're
I'd-
right,
I'm
and even
fine
chiropractors.
If there was one in there,
could
but you'd
be.
have to really figure out the distance.
Well, you bring
because
up a good point. If
Gas
that mobile
stations
gas
are
station,
everywhere.
if they do want to
And-
sell it at the mobile, you're right, there is a daycare not very far from there.
I suppose it depends on how close you want it to be, right?
Right.
What's the proposal there? What are most cities doing?
500 feet.
That probably
That's
would-
quite a ways.
Yeah, but that probably, I bet you mobile is.
And it's
within
property
500
line to
feet of-
property line. If you look at like, for example, the property line of the
So-
strip mall that I believe you're in, council member, it doesn't go to the door, it goes to that property line is what I'm seeing in most. Again,
You
subject
keep
to change.
saying me, is my product?
Oh,
something-
no, I'm just saying, if we had, I'm sorry, I
No,
didn't mean to
but-
pick
no, but
on you.
my-
If we had a
but-
chiropractor who was looking to sell products, and so he got he or she got licensed in it, it would also affect those. So I want to make sure that,
I do
council's
have
aware, it's not
products.
just like gas stations or like a tobacco shop, it's any establishment that would be selling these types of products.
Well, I do have products, I just don't know if it'd be covered under that. I have no THC or anything like that, so it wouldn't be covered under that? Like, I'm
Any-
selling hemp, and I'm
And
selling CBD oil.
that's cannabis. That's
Well, I'm
what,
One of
just,
the
I'm just
things that-
checking, I don't know. I don't
One of the
know.
things that this new law put into place,
I'd have to do the same thing, I wouldn't know.
was,
But
this
wouldn't you wanna
does
know what you're
cover
selling, though?
CBD
Well, I knew it
products
has
that
no
also
THC in
have
it.
THC.
I just wanna know if it's covered
derived
under
from
this law,
hemp.
that's what I want.
Oh.
How about those that we say grandfathered in? Are they gonna have to come back and get a license now?
So when this becomes effective, they would have a certain amount of time. It might be in here, I'd have to look and see if I put that in there for when we establish it. But I think once we pass this, they have 30 or 60 days to come in and get their license before they'd be out of compliance. And we would make that clear.
Do we know who's doing it in town? I mean, I can guess up on this highway there, but is anybody else selling it in town?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Because we don't have business licensing here in the city of Isani, we don't know who is selling what because they're not required to tell us. So I'm not sure.
what about, as far as distance, what if we just said in the connecting building? So like if you had a daycare in a strip mall, they couldn't move into the space right next to them. But that doesn't mean they couldn't be, across the street.
Why
in
wouldn't you
gas
do a
station.
yardage then? Like they do in schools, what's the school thing, chief? Where you can't have narcotics in a certain distance of the school, otherwise you could be charged for felony. What is that yardage? I know, I can't think. Yeah, so 500 yards from a school zone would be considered, you could be charged with a felony for having narcotics in that school zone. You could also say that for schools, daycares, or anything else you wanted to put in there under the
But
realm
mobile,
of 500 yards.
Are we saying yards or are we saying feet?
But mobile,
Feet.
Is it feet? Sorry,
Oh.
feet.
But Shan's right, the mobile would be
Mobile.
closer than any of that stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're within property line to property line, you're talking 30 feet,
Right.
That's true.
just the distance of the road.
But I'm saying,
between-
you don't have to make it 500 feet, but you
Right.
could, if you wanted to, or you could say 200 feet or whatever. Cut mobile out of there, but I'd butt it right up to mobile's property line.
Or if you went from,
Door to
Door
door
to
gives you
door.
more. If you have a business that has like, for example, a strip mall, and they have a large parking area, that property line is actually by the road,
Yeah.
more so by the door.
yeah,
So door to door would be better.
probably,
For the
I would
business.
think,
It would increase the distance.
yeah.
We're really not talking about a lot of difference, and it makes a difference to the businesses that want to sell it, but for the people that
Right,
are gonna
I'm
actually
just-
see the signage and they're gonna see,
Yeah,
an extra 200 feet one way
I'm
or
just-
another, I mean, you're still gonna see it,
oh, yeah, the only, I guess, scenarios I could see is mobile, or if someone wanted to put one in, the strip mall where the pawn shop used to be, because there's a daycare facility across the street from that mall too, so.
Which you could see both of those things being
Yeah.
a realistic possibility for sure.
Yep.
If there is the other end of the spectrum is that we don't put any requirement to be away from youth facilities, and believe that the businesses will do what they should, and then it is set by statute that they cannot sell to under 21. So,
I mean,
we're not required to put it in there.
They're
I
already
just
selling
have seen
tobacco
it in most
products.
of the cities I've seen.
They're already selling tobacco products at the mobile, and so.
Tobacco products, they have to be behind the counter, nobody can just, here, I want this box of cigarettes. Is that the way, I was up at a gas station up, and I think it was Sandstone. I'm telling you, all the THC products are right on the counter, and is there any regulations about being behind the counter, or,
It says they have to be in a locked case in here.
I believe I read the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that
It has to
case
be in a
could on
secure
the counter, but
location
yeah.
or locked
Like-
case.
like
It
a
can't be
cigarette.
where, I
Yeah.
think because they have it as the age requirement, it can't be something that someone could
Yeah.
easily take. So I was part of a group that we had a bunch of city administrators together, and one of them was saying, we were just saying some interesting things, and they did compliance checks. I think they had already put an ordinance in place. And I think they said that they had 5 licensed establishments, and all but one failed for meeting just the requirements set by the state, not selling to someone. I'm not sure if they did the age compliance or if they were just looking at packaging, things like that. So another reason why I think it is good to have something just to ensure the safety of all the residents within the city and those that come from the community, but,
I wouldn't even know how, what like distance to,
I mean, if
To
you say
put it-
100 feet, at least you'd have something in there,
Have
but I mean, is
something
it
in there.
really, yeah, I mean,
it's
it's
something.
really not gonna stop anything, but I mean, I think
It would-
that's a safe
But it would keep,
distance.
if it was door to door, it would at least keep someone from moving in right next door in a strip mall that has got a daycare. per se.
I think the door-to-door would work better.
Yeah.
Do you have an opinion, chief?
As far as public safety, probably not. It's just perception and what you want to perceive for people going to those establishments. You know, I mean, the ordinance already makes us, you can't sell to those people, but the decision is, do you want them in next proximity?
So door-to-door would probably work
I guess-
better in your mind, too.
I don't know, I mean, what's worse to children, this CBD or cigarettes? There isn't nothing on cigarettes, so.
I think they're
I
equally
guess-
bad.
Right, well, I don't think so, but I think cigarettes are far worse than some CBD ointment for my sore hands, you know?
Well, I
But-
sell CBD, and I don't think that fits under the requirement if it doesn't have THC in it, right?
This is all cannabinoid products is what this is for.
Is that CBD?
Yes. C-
Yes.
It's the
The
cannabis
C
product-
stands for
cannabis
cannabis.
'Cause
It's
we have a,
CBD.
we have a chiropractic supply store right in town, and that's where I get it from.
Yeah, that was
They would
gonna,
have to probably be aware of that.
that was gonna be my point, is that cigarettes are sold at tobacco shops, convenience stores, but CBD is sold at such a variety of different places that it's, I think, harder to limit the location of it because a chiropractor could sell it, a wellness center would sell it. So people view it differently than cigarettes.
So I do fit under this law, is that what you're saying, Ms. Woods? So I do fit under this law, is that what you're saying?
If it's CBD derived, with THC derived from hemp, then yes.
It
The
doesn't
only
have
things that are not
THC,
excluded,
yeah.
the things that I've read that are excluded,
Hemp
are-
or not, Councilman Burgley,
animal.
it's CBD.
Yeah, but she's saying she just said THC.
She is, but it's still a cannabis product, which this is covering cannabis as
Right.
a
So
whole.
CBD.
I think that might be the misconception, and it's not easy to interpret unless you do a lot of reading. Even I've done a lot of reading, it still is hard to discern on everything, but with this new law, it does cover CBD products. Prior to this law in July, it did not. There was no regulation on that.
Well, that was my question, my first question too, was, you know, on the cannabinoid product definition, we're saying it's containing non-intoxicating cannabinoids extracted from hemp, but it's also said, you know, sold for human or animal consumption, so I mean, is a lotion considered consumption? I mean, I guess.
Absorb
kind of,
it.
But you're not, what'd you say? I mean,
Your
You're
skin
absorbing
absorbs
it.
yeah, I guess, yeah, so.
I don't know.
Been non-intoxicating, so I mean, every gas station now, like say Quick Trip, that's selling just, I don't know, they've got like a little case of CBD or something, don't they, at the counter? It's like a little square box.
I haven't seen it.
I've never
Because
noticed
could be
it.
right.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, so then they would have to have a license just for the little stuff that they're selling, you know, I mean, I don't know.
Well, I would guess then all my products are that way, because I've had people buy my product and test positive on a drug test because of that product. It has no THC in it, but, you know, so I'm comfortable selling it, but, so, I guess if the CBD is included, I would guess the hemp is included as
My-
well.
My understanding, and I am not a guru on this by any means, so I want to make sure that that's clear, but my understanding is that it's defined as hemp because the THC in the plant is less than 0.3%. So or less than 0.3%. Is that right? Am I saying that right? 0.3? So it has it in there, but people don't say it's THC because that number, that concentration is so low, it's considered hemp and not cannabis.
So I'm just trying to clarify for myself here. So
Chief, have you been to a drug recognition class?
so the
What
hemp-
the
so
H
the
and double
hemp
hockey
is
sticks.
yes.
I've even been to
Hemp
one.
does
Yes, I
have-
can sell that without a license.
Hemp does have THC in it.
Smaller
It
It just
percentage.
is the concentration has to be below the threshold that the state has set, which I believe is 0.3%.
Point-
But the CBD is, yes, I need a license for that. The hemp is
Yes.
no. I don't need
Yes.
that. Okay, thank you.
But see, that doesn't make any sense, that you would need a license to sell what you're selling, I don't think. You know, I mean, it's not,
It is what it is. I mean, I'm not saying it makes sense or doesn't make sense. I'm just trying to follow the law here. I don't want the chief
So,
showing up at my door saying, where's your license?
I guess the more I think about it,
or does the dollar store need to have a license to sell hemp lotion or something like that, you know, I mean, I don't know.
Well, we pretty much sat back and to see what the state was gonna come out with, and they're coming out with something slowly but surely, but I don't know that they're moving fast enough for this council. And the door-to-door would make sense to me. I don't know,
Ms. Woods, is any of this optional? I mean, could a product like CBD be removed for that? Or if you do the whole cannabinoid, you gotta do everything that they recommend? Or is this a state law? Is that what you're saying? And then we're just licensing people based on? the
It's not a state law, but definitions have been taken from the state statute on how they're defining it.
Do you need any recommendation on that? I mean, I see the staff is recommending that
I guess.
we
since
add a
it's-
chapter 298.
Since it is age restricted, I think we should have it licensed. Because if, you know, when same with the liquor license and the tobacco, when they come to have their license renewed every year, we can ask chief if they've had any issues. If they've had issues, we can choose not to, you know, we can basically put them on probation.
I don't disagree with that, but, I mean, are they gonna have to
But
check
the-
IDs for hemp lotion too?
I don't sell internal CBD, but, you know, if we have to check a license, I mean, I don't think I sell to anybody under 21. Without even I don't even say, are you under 20, are you under 21? I know I mean, they fill a form saying what they're.
I guess that'll be up to the business to know whether or not they're supposed to be checking for whatever product they're selling, you know?
Based on what you're saying right now, based on what we're voting on, there's a daycare across the way from me. Are we saying door to door? Are we saying 500 feet or what are we?
Or we could remove it.
I think we should just
Or not
remove it.
not include
Because
it in here.
we don't have it on tobacco, we don't have it on liquor. And I think those products are a lot more worse
Well,
than
there is a state law on,
cannabis.
liquor. I mean, the state law is you can't have a high school
Right, that's,
event within, what is it? Do you know, Chief? What is it like? I think it's like 1,000 feet. I know,
But-
Champlin Ice Arena almost had G Will Liquor kicked out of there, even though they were there first, because they were within 500 feet of their.
and I don't know if that's a state law, that could be just something that the city put in place themselves.
Well, I think they went to the state and asked them to be moved, so, you know, so there is a law about school events and that type of stuff, so.
There is
Mayor
a
and Council,
law.
I don't want to rush the discussion on it. If we want to research this more and bring back more information, just to make sure that we're clear on the CBD, I mean, trying to use the definitions that come from statute, but doesn't mean that's easy to interpret. We can bring this back to COW next month if council
think-
feel better about that, giving everyone time to look into it further.
So, I mean, we have to put some of the responsibility too on the business owners. They need to know what they're selling, and if they can sell it to an 18-year-old or a 21-year-old, they should know that about all their products. So I don't think it's our responsibility to, you know,
maybe not enforce it,
But
but.
I think
but
that's-
Research
people-
that.
That's what the law did do, though, is they put it back on the local enforcements to do their job when we don't really know what they're enforcing. So that's
What
the
a shocker.
unfortunate part of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. I don't
Well, that
mind
was
getting a
when those
license,
guys
I just
came
wanna
in, they
know,
were
and
saying
I don't
about
mind
the
selling to
bullshit and stuff
people
and how it
under
was hard to-
21. I just wanna know, you know, there's a daycare across the way, am I being illegal because there's a daycare across the way, you know?
That's why I think we
Is that-
should
is
just,
that a- Is that a problem?
Well, that's why
I
we're
think
trying
we
to
should-
determine now, do we do foot, do we do door to door, do we just take it out, period?
I think
That
just-
is at council's discretion for that part of it. That is not within statute.
I think we
like
should just,
liquor.
for now, take it out, period, and
Not do it.
And
I
let
think-
the staff do more homework?
I
Or,
think, I think what
I
I'm
think we
hearing-
should just leave it alone and let the staff do more
What
homework,
I'm
is what I
hearing
think we
is
should
the
do.
confusion of CBD products, because I think that CBD was released out into the general public, and there wasn't a lot of what's in the, is it considered from hemp? Does it have THC? Is it intoxicating? Is it non-intoxicating? I would tell you, I've read a lot on this subject, and it conflicts itself in different things you read, and they're even reputable research, places. It's hard to interpret. But my understanding, and that was what the gentleman who had come and spoke at council that one day, is this new law did put on these, what the statute did, like being over 21, on CBD products. And if you read the law, it says it's the CBD products, or the products derived from hemp. So CBD by hemp. It's not intoxicating because it's under that 0.3%, but it still is a CBD product and derived from hemp.
so we can just go with that then. Right?
Well, see, the
I mean-
THC part of it is different than just the CBD part though, too, right? So, I mean, I guess I thought that was more what we were concerned about, was whatever the THC products were, not the CBD products.
That's,
CBD does not have a lot of THC in it, I know that for a fact, I've studied that.
Right, 'cause I mean, the CBD's been around now for years,
yep,
right?
and
I
that's
mean, the
below
THC is
point
what was the new thing.
3% or
Yeah.
whatever to,
And there's topical, which I'm sure if it had some THC, it would get in the body, but not near as much as if you took it internally, so.
I think staff, again, should do their homework, and we just leave it be until next committee of the whole meeting.
I can get Mark look into it more for clarification on CBD products specifically, and if this would impact all CBD products or certain CBD products that are required to have certain packaging requirements that say that has THC or hemp or what. I think that's what we're all,
and, not to make it more complicated for you guys, but, in the medical portion of it, if it's a masseuse or a chiropractor office or whatever it might be for if it's being used for a medical reason, find out if
my understanding is that
They're under
medical
the
is not
same?
included under this. That's, if it's medical by prescription, that is something completely different.
Does
okay,
that
what if
include
it's,
all licensed healthcare professionals then?
probably doesn't say.
Because I can sign like a DOT physical, I can sign a sports physical, I can sign a disability.
Can you
know.
prescribe?
I can't prescribe, but I can.
Okay,
but-
that's-
But
that's-
I can sell CBD stuff. I mean, that's.
I know that America,
America.
medical is under a different statute. It's got its own category, and that's not with this.
Well, that's why I get back to healthcare.
I tried to refrain, I'm sorry.
Oh, my gosh.
That's why I get back to healthcare professional, because there's some things they look at us as medical, and there's other things that they don't.
I will do more research on specifically CBD products and bring that back at the following December cow, if that's okay. with
Perfect.
Sounds good.
All right, let's move on to E4, the Illuminate Isani update. Before we go into this one, I'm gonna jump in, because I don't get on and say anything on social media. I just sit in the sticks and I watch things happen. We are facing a lot of scrutiny on this item. They're slamming us for charging an admission to this. Comments are being said that we frivolously spent money. I mean, I got them verbatim because I'm smart and I screenshot a lot of things. We blew a lot of money on an unnecessary project. What was the other one I saw here? I'm literally reading verbatim here now. Where do the proceeds go? Why are we going to paying for a public fund gazebo in Sledding Hill, the cost of the project? We absolutely absurd. And now we get to pay the use what we already paid for. So their assumption is they're already paying for this. This is their tax money. In talking to Mr. Becker, again, as I did with many things the other evening, Mr. Becker, would you care to break this down?
Yeah, so the way that we planned this out fiscally is that the intent here is that over time, this would become a self-sustaining endeavor, right? The goal is to have this be what we would call in the accounting world an enterprise fund, right? And that means that to qualify as an enterprise fund, you need to be able to make it on your own, right? There are no transfers in from the general fund or anywhere else that cover the costs. Problem with a project like this is that the upfront cost is large, but the ongoing costs are considerably smaller. To that end, it doesn't start as an enterprise fund, right? So in this case right now, it is classified as Fund 228. 200 class funds are special revenue funds. That means there is a dedicated revenue stream that is separate from tax revenues, right? This is a different setup. Currently, because we are incurring costs prior to this being open, before revenues become available, we are deficit spending in Fund 228. The intent is that so long as donations continue to come in and ticketing comes in and we have people involved and people actually show up, the goal is that over time, this is an event that it reasonably has a reasonable path to being able to be viable, and someday, hopefully in that five-year range, maybe 7, something like that, we can have this thing grow to be large enough that it is an enterprise fund, it's a standalone item, and at that point, we'd reclassify it as a 600 class fund, right? Like we do water, sewer, stormwater, liquor, those types of things. So yes, we're deficit spending, but the only time this could ever be construed as being used, as using tax dollars for this is if in the end we abandon ship entirely while we're still in the hole, or this thing just never takes off at all. In that scenario, just like with anything else, the general fund is always the final backstop. But yeah, the intent here is keep it as a special revenue fund at the beginning stages, and hopefully it grows, hopefully it becomes bigger, and becomes a standalone enterprise fund.
So this essentially isn't people's tax money?
Not currently.
The initial
I mean,
investment, the initial investment is taxpayer dollars.
If there's a phrase I use every now and then in fund accounting is that in fund accounting, it can always be true and it can always be false. So when we have a bucket of money at the bank and I take money out of that bucket has not been delineated as either water revenues, sewer revenues, whatever the source of money it was, that's non-delineated and it's not classified. Now, to the understanding that in the end, it would be backstopped by the general fund, yeah. Then at that point, yeah, we're talking about tax dollars. But the intent of the project has always been is to be a standalone, and it simply requires that initial investment to, make it through that first year, so to speak.
Is this gonna drive up our cost of living, Mike?
In the grand scheme of things, no. The other thing to remember too is that we might talk about tens of thousands of dollars, $100,000, whatever gets spent. In the end, because this would be a special revenue fund, even if, all right, let's say this. Let's pretend, just for the sake of discussion, let's pretend we spent $100,000 putting this up and 0 people showed up. Absolutely nobody came and there was no revenue. At that point, it is the council's discretion to decide, are we gonna keep going with this or not? Presumably, the council would not, right, if nobody showed up. At that point, then the council would be tasked with, well, how do you want to refund or repay Fund 228, right? We gotta get it back to 0, just like with the BMX building, right? We're kind of in a similar boat like that. And at that point, council could say, all right, we're gonna transfer from the general fund an entire amount all at once. Council could say, we're gonna transfer smaller amounts over 5 years. Council could say, we're gonna transfer yet even smaller amounts over 10 years. There's nothing that limits the council in how they would handle that. The only question I would ever receive from my auditors would be, is there a plan? Did the council approve a plan to replenish that money?
And the last question would be, I think it's gonna be more directed at you. Damn it, I just totally blanked.
Well, I have a question while you think
Go ahead.
there. So, I've heard from a person in the public, they said that our sponsors were unaware that we were charging for this, and
That's for my question.
they were upset that we were charging and they were sponsoring it. So I don't know I don't know if the ball got dropped, if they just weren't listening, or I don't know what happened, but is that true, or?
Did we make our sponsors aware?
It was in the information they did receive, and Jordan actually did call all of the sponsors, outside of the one sponsor we did hear that from, and they all were excited about the event and were aware that they were receiving tickets and that it was a ticketed event. So,
Minus the one that were taken out.
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That
Well,
was
if
my
you-
question too, was that the reason that because we were charging for it, is the reason we lost that donation?
Yes. Yep. But yes, there are other ones, he called each one personally. and
Because they were saying that they weren't aware that it was,
Well, here's the
A
deal.
charged
If
event.
you walked into my office with a packet of information and said, you want to sponsor this event, I don't know if I'm going to get to page where it tells me. Two. I might just look, hey.
There's
this
the
looks good.
form.
This looks good. If you don't specifically tell me we're charging for this event, I could totally miss it. I'm not saying, and I'm not trying to place blame anywhere here. I'm just saying for future reference, people need to be told this is a charged event. Whether, I know you're handing out written material. I probably am not going to get to the written material. I'm going to go, am I going to sponsor this or not? Looks like a good event. I'll throw money in. And then I might be one of those that are mad, well, it was on page 2,
But you gotta fill out the page physically, you have to fill it out.
I have to fill out
As a
page 2,
sponsor.
so this.
right, so, but what he's saying is, what if this was page 1, page 2 was the sheet you're filling out, and page 3 was the information saying we were charging, page 4, he's gonna hit page 2, he's gonna fill it out and send it back. He ain't gonna read any further.
So it
Yeah, I
was
could see that.
on the only verbiage page, so there was only one page of information that did say it was a ticketed event. And we did add it now to the application as well, so that it's very
You're adding it
clear.
now, what was it initially put in there?
Yes, it was initially put on, it did say it was a ticketed event.
What does that
In
mean
the
ticketed? Does that mean
information,
that we
I
were
just want to be
charging?
clear, Mayor and Council, it was clear that it was in there that it was a ticketed event in the information, not on the initial application. So as you're mentioning, your example of being 4 pages long, it was on one page, not the page that had the application initially.
So it could have been page 4, and like Councilman Burgley said, you hit page 2, you fill out the form, you send it in. Didn't even get to page 4.
That is correct. That was like that. That is why staff moved forward to call to ensure that everyone else was under the understanding that it was a ticketed event, which they were. So the one group was not, which we do understand how that could happen. So to make sure that it didn't happen moving forward after that initial next day of that conversation, staff added it to the application. So not only was it in the information part of it, it was on the application page.
And this was all stirred about, I can admit that BMX reached out to me, I reached out to Ms. Wood, I'm sure Ms. Wood reached out to Ms. Hillsheim, and the ball got rolling, but they weren't happy.
Well, yeah,
The original, when we had the original vote and we just were deciding on how we should approach this, I think you and I voted against this approach and we wanted to do something more where we had, we provided the electric and then the businesses kind of did the displays themselves and the city didn't really have its own displays. I don't know if you remember that, but, but I think the way that this was voted on and we decided to do it this way, I think you have to charge for it because you're trying to continue to grow it, right? So, I think that's the direction we took, by, 3-2 majority or whatever. So, I think that being where we're at now, this is the approach that we're taking, right? So, if you want to have it continue to be viable, then it needs to generate revenue to increase the displays and to continue to move forward.
When we
with it,
did lower the cost,
Right.
because we felt that it should be affordable for families.
well, I think I get all that. I think the point is, though, we also have to be transparent. If you come into my office, ask me to sponsor an event, Maybe it is on me, I don't know, but if I find out later,
I'm not,
If I found out
I
later-
don't disagree with that.
well, I'm just saying that, I get what everybody's saying here, but that wasn't the point that we were making.
But
The
there's-
point is we should have not only gave it to it in the packet, we should have verbally told them as well, is, hey, you might want to go through all of this, this is a chargeable event, which we probably pretty much just handed the packet, and they filled it out, they didn't reach page 4.
It was online, and they filled it out, and we did send it to them via email, but that was, we apologized to them and said that was not our goal.
And all
Was
but
not-
one was okay.
Well, nobody else noticed, yeah. No, everybody else knew that because it did outline how many tickets they would receive for the event, also on that first page, so.
Well, thank you for doing all that, I appreciate that.
And I did go back and watch that exact meeting.
Yes, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but that's not how the vote
I
went.
also-
I'm not here to get in how the vote went, but no, it's not at all. No, not at all.
I also think
But-
it's really important when we're talking about ticketing, for the residents to realize that this, ticketing it is helping them share the cost with the greater community. It's not only residents who are gonna attend this event. We have people coming from, like, adding this, we have 266 people interested in going already, and we just posted the event at the end of last week.
2 days ago,
And we
right,
have
to be
50
exact?
Last night, we posted the tickets online. We have 50
just
tickets
last night,
purchased already
right.
today, and that was at 5 PM, so within 24 hours.
How many did you say?
50 tickets purchased already, and that's before the school kids will get their free tickets, so I know parents are already aware of that, so they'll be getting that at the end of the week. So we should see more purchased after that, as well as the people who are aware that you can get a coupon at the liquor store. So I'm sure there are many people waiting to get one of those also. So I think we'll see from now on. We haven't even boosted the event yet either, and so that's coming now that ticket sales are moving forward. I do think that that's a really important thing for residents to understand is that it's actually helping cover the cost by ticketing people. It's not a way to,
It's gonna make it bigger and better
Yes,
is the
yep.
goal.
We've got some great vendors. That's a great vendor list. I will say that.
Well, I appreciate you going back and explaining it to people, I'm sure that was hard to do, so thank you.
Well,
This is a-
reading the email was pretty hard. I forwarded it all to Josie as it was sent to me, and it was, I don't know about you, but it took all I could to sit on my hands and handle that professionally. The way BMX attacked us, I mean, I'm reading it verbatim. I know what people are saying, and they're all misinformed. That's for sure.
Excuse me, Mayor, I think if we are going to have someone speak, we have to have them announce their name and address for the record, as we do have to. It's a public meeting for the minutes.
This is a new venture, and we've never done anything like this before, so
We haven't.
there's bound to be a few bumps along the way that are
There
gonna be
is.
learning experiences and, you
in
know,
my previous
it's to be
experience.
expected.
With light shows, even when they're free, people complain a lot at the beginning before they know what it is. So this isn't unique to Isani or this event.
Not for you, but for the rest of us it is.
So we complain to you, right?
No, I mean, there's plenty of other light shows you can go see for $20 a head or more.
Oh, there's a whole list on here of free ones. Or
Free ones?
donation-based, yeah. Somebody started to post that too. Like I said, I'm reading verbatim off the Facebook page. post.
Free light shows?
Free.
What Facebook page?
Not like a
It's the city's
Johnson's house
Facebook.
on the corner light show, I mean,
It's the city's Facebook page. If you go under there, there is tickets are now available for Illuminate Isani, and people are scrutinizing the heck out of this event. They're asking why they're paying for it. Isn't this a public park? It should be a free event. Why isn't this donation-based? What's this one?
have we ever charged before for any event that we willingly put on for the residents? I don't recall.
Certainly not the
Not,
street
not a,
dances.
not
A lot of
one.
these are Wisconsin.
Jubilee
You do pay- you
days,
do pay
kids,
for-
Kids Day, all that, it's all free.
I
No,
suppose
well,
you
we
could.
have, no, we have, actually.
Every one of
Councilmember,
these are Wisconsin, actually. They're not even Minnesota.
We have charged for family and youth events, so things that we've done, we did a family time series in the park. Those were charged. I think we did $3 per person on those, and then a family rate, which was the discounted if you were a resident, more expensive if you were out, or not a City of Iceni resident. So we have charged for that. We've done other,
Community garden,
activities and community, what's that?
the community garden. We
Yeah,
charge
community
for.
garden is a charge thing,
That's not
renting
a-
shelters.
That's not an event, though, you know?
If we're,
Kind of is,
as we look
right?
to put recreation programs together, we've done, in the past, some recreation things like build a rocket. Those are all charged, and it
yeah.
really is to recoup
Cover the
fees
costs of the
and
materials.
cover the costs. When we
Stuff, yeah.
do have speakers come in, like, for example, one time I led an edible, it was one of our family series, for edibles in the park. And I hired, I think it was $50, hired a person to come through and tell us what's all edible, because it's a big deal. You gotta really know what mushrooms and berries are edible. Super fun thing, but it does cost money to have a professional come in and lead those, so we have charged fees to cover that. This is just at a bigger scale, but it is really going to be a great event. Staff is putting a lot of time to this. The sponsors and the donations that we've gotten from this really want it all to succeed as well. You'll see that staff doesn't comment on those posts on Facebook, which typically we don't banter anyways. We do try to ensure that we have correct information getting out there, but we want to not facilitate negativity. We are hoping that it will become more positive, because staff does have a concern that it could harm our sponsors and donators, because we have a lot of people that want this to be a success and be a grand thing for the community at large, and what a great opportunity we have to be able to do that here.
And there-
These are all Wisconsin-based, Councilman Collison, except for one, which is Anoka County Fairgrounds, and they're a food donation.
I also want to mention there is a opportunity for local organizations to receive donations through this event. We need volunteers, and we'll be having popcorn at this event, which will be free, as well as s'mores. And we have a huge snow globe that you can walk into and take a picture. And so at those locations, we'll have the opportunity for that volunteer group of the night to get donations for their organizations. So please spread the word that we do want volunteers and need them for this event to be successful.
Kind of like you would do for the movie night.
Yes, similar.
Like if Cubs,
Yes,
if the Cub Scouts go in to
Similar.
do the concessions at the movie,
yes.
same
Yep.
kind of thing.
Good job, thank you.
Anything you need to cover on this, Ms. Hilsheim? Now that you did this handout, sorry, I jumped ahead of the ship here, but I'm not sorry.
I don't think so. We've really been ramping up the website and working on getting an interactive map put out there. The fence went in today. It'll be screened. You'll start seeing the big tree go up next, and it should be exciting to watch everything go into place. And it's taking a lot of hard work from Jordan and all the staff around here, including Public Works. Ryan's helped put stuff together. The police department's letting us use their space.
It really is a big city event. I mean, it is taking people from every single department to play a part in it. One thing that staff would like a discussion on, or if there's any interest from council, if we wanted to do like a ribbon cutting for the event, do you want to have a kickoff for it to be happening? If that's something that you're interested in, we'd like
We
to
come
know
down
that.
the sledding hill and slide into the event, and
We tried that when we opened the sledding hill. It didn't work so well. Actually, Dan cut that one.
I wiped out a
Yeah.
couple of times.
We do have a press release going out very soon. There'll also be articles in the paper about this event and what it's planned to be and all the activities and festivities to enjoy. So if there was something that, we didn't know if council was interested in doing that, but if you were, please let us know.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Did I vote for this? See, now you got me thinking, because I'm sorry if I.
Watch your meetings.
Well, I mean, it's been a long time ago since we did that, but.
Not very too long.
Well, I know we had discussions prior to that, but if I'm wrong about that, I am sorry.
I covered every meeting because I'm tired of people slamming this event.
Sure. No, because I know we were on that, we were going that direction. That was what I wanted to support, but I may have came around. You maybe-
Which I was originally behind, let's go on a donation-based.
Sure. Yeah, so maybe I'm not remembering that correctly. So if I am wrong about that, I am sorry. That's not, wasn't trying to misrepresent that, so.
And
I
we
watch a
don't,
lot of meetings, a lot of past meetings.
Someone actually
we
said.
don't have our donors on here, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
We don't have our donors on here, but we do have a lot of donors that have been given a lot of money and time. We're excited. Parkitect is donating us 2 huge Illuminate Isani signs to put up outside the event on Isani Parkway and
Are we lighting that
Third
up?
Avenue. Yes, they will be backlit, so we appreciate that. And along with our other donors, we'll have heated bathrooms, so that's great too. So we're lucky to have people who are really behind this event in our community.
Methane.
Methane. Any other questions, comments, or concerns on the Illuminate Isani? I think we covered everything I was looking for. Thanks,
So,
Mr. Becker.
yeah.
Thanks, Ms. Hillsheim.
Yeah, it's just a learning experience, you know, so it's just gonna
If
be
we-
better, so thank you.
If we have snow, you can go sledding and then go check out the lights.
That's the object, a winter wonderland. Are you gonna dress as an elf, Jordan? Come on.
I will not.
He's too tall. He's gotta be Santa Claus. He's gotta put
You
on
could be
the-
Buddy the Elf. It's Christmas! Should wear it. Get her
You
done.
can get that cologne of the beer and cheese. Put that.
All right, we'll move on to E5, the annual fee schedule review.
All right, so this one is a lot smaller this year than in years past, and most of this, I think, is probably pretty non-controversial. So Chapter 160 is attached, so we've got I think it's 13 pages of that. For removals, would basically just be taking away everything related to the farmer's market, right? That's no longer a city function, so don't need those in there. We would just update the one that we are still listing the actual price for the valve plate cover from 100 to 115. Really, the only other option is we just say, cost, not have to go through that each year, but then we have two additions. One is copies for USB drive, $5. That's becoming more common, right? Especially as we have data requests. People are more frequently looking to have that information provided to them on a flash drive. So rather than currently having nothing in there and giving them a flash drive that we've paid for and put time into, maybe $5 is a reasonable price on that. And the other one, which may or may not, the council may or may not want to go forward with, is the cannabinoid license now. If we think that 250 is the appropriate one, no matter what the chapter we may add would say, okay, but if you'd rather wait and see how that chapter of code plays out before we set this, that would also work.
250 for the license we talked about earlier?
Per year.
Yes.
That would be the annual license fee that staff is
That would be
recommending.
an annual license. I think that's steep myself, but
Well, how much is the tobacco?
Tobacco is done at the county is 150, I
Well,
believe, and then liquor is considerably more.
Do we have staff time that we are covering for that 250? Why is it 250? I guess is my question is.
So it's, all licenses are, whether it's tobacco or liquor, it does take quite a bit of work because not only does staff have to evaluate the application that comes in, that they meet the requirements set by the state statute and as well as our city code, which would go to the clerk, and then Ms. Strand would then send it over to the state. Does the state, for if we have tobacco and liquor on that one. This one doesn't go to the state, sorry.
So that's essentially covering staff time.
And then we did not do a separate background fee. We had that fee included, so that goes over to the chief, and the chief or his staff do a background check. And that takes time and processing as well. Then it comes back to Ms. Strand that they've covered the background check. She prepares a documentation as long as they've met all the requirements and they pass that, submits everything to city council for approval, and it is a license that has to be approved by council, not by staff. And then after, if council has approved it, then she issues an actual license and sends that back over to the establishment. So that process takes time, and that's what that time is calculated on.
250
So
sounds fair.
so I've never seen one come here about tobacco, but I've seen people come here about liquor. Will this be, you have to show up and,
This would be here, and it would, yes, you would come.
yeah, and the chief would talk about how many fights were at my place. And
The reason why you don't, Councilmember, the reason why you don't see the tobacco is because tobacco is done at the county,
We
at
did.
Sandy County.
Okay,
Usually we would do the liquor, tattoo, and pawn shop all in the same night, I think, in the
Yeah,
past.
usually they follow on the rotating. This would be, it'd be one calendar year, and we wouldn't prorate it. It would be when you come in, you get your license. So we do have all those licenses coming together at one time,
The last time we voted-
give or take a month.
Yeah, but we voted last time on the tattoos only coming in once every 3 years.
We all
That
did.
would-
No, I'm not saying we did, but I'm saying it's not yearly like liquor.
No, we changed that to, what did we change it, like every 3 years? No, the tattoo was changed to,
Tattoo is 1 year for the first time and then 3 years every.
And that's for
time following.
conditional use.
Yes, yep.
Conditional
That's-
use
yeah.
permit. It's actually
That's
licensed through
totally
the state.
different.
It's a little bit different. We don't have licensing, which we could, but we don't. We give that regulatory, we keep it just at the state.
this 250 is you're passing the ball from one person to another, back to another, to another. I mean, you're covering staff time in that 250. And if that 250 is covering staff time, we don't want to frivolously spend there, Councilman Burgley,
No,
so
I'm not arguing.
got to
that.
cover staff time.
Right, I'm just wondering about how involved it is for the business. Do they show up every year, like, you know?
Just, yeah, they would show up here just like they do for the liquor license, and we would approve or not approve.
I don't have a problem with that fee amount as long as it's applied to people that are actually selling like the THC products. I don't think Paul selling lotions, it's gonna take him a long time to make up $250 worth of a permit fee for lotion sales, you know,
That's-
so.
I think we'll define
1
it
hour,
further
isn't
of
there,
who
Dr.
exactly.
Burgley?
Yeah.
1 hour at a time would make that 250 out.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking about half hour myself.
All right. As long as we're being real, you know?
I know what you meant.
I know what you meant too, but somebody's got to make a joke and betterment the situation here.
Loosen things up.
Right. Any other questions, comments, or concerns, or do we need any direction on that, Ms. Wood?
Nope, if the council is good as the way that Mike has presented it, that is an ordinance amendment. So that does have to come back to city council for final approval, once it's been posted.
I do have one final question. So then how soon would that take effect? If we vote on it next month, it would take effect?
The next day.
This is for January 1st is when the new fee schedule would take effect.
You're talking about grandfathering in, so if it was January 1st, I have 30 to 60 days to come down and apply for that?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on to E6, the water tower rehabilitation scope of work.
So the city's water tower rehab work is in the capital improvement plan for work to be performed next year, 2023. The amount included in the CIP is $811,490. There's two options that were presented back when there was a project completed by Bolton and Mink. And we did have an updated on-site evaluation on June 14th of this year. And it did again outline the two options that we have. The option number one that you see has approximate cost of $475,000. You see that that's almost half of what we have budgeted, and the reason being is because the exterior overcoat work is only including spot repair. It's not doing the entire removal and replacement. It is estimated by the engineers that performing that work would need to be done and give a lifespan of about 7 to 10 years before it would have to have that full removal and replacement. Option two is an approximate cost of $825,000, and that, as I mentioned, is a full removal and replacement and would give a life cycle of approximately 20 years.
What was the first life cycle again?
7 to 10.
7 to 10.
So really, it's do we want to do a spot treatment or do we want to do a full rehab? Looking at that cost analysis is what council will need to kind of give direction to staff on. If we want to pay less, but it kicks the can down the road to do the work, or do we want to pay it right now, knowing that costs would likely increase over time anyways for full replacement, and then we will get 20 more years out of that.
Jason,
That's-
what did you guys recommend? Did you recommend the first option?
We had this discussion, a while ago about doing this,
Oh, I forgot.
yeah, about, we were afraid that the prices would go up if we waited to do, if we did just the temporary fix and then do it again.
Yeah, so, I mean, from what we found, we recommend doing, you know, the full, complete sandblast and redo. It'll get you that 20 years. Hopefully that in 20 years, we'll be reevaluating and being able to do it again and getting, you know, the maximum life out of the actual tower before you have to go about replacing the whole darn thing. The reduced, you know, other option, the reason it's an option is, in the end, after that 7 to 10 years, the interior, wet and dry, would still be good. They're both options are the same kind of 20-year life expectancy topic. It's just that exterior thing. So if you chose to kind of save the money now, you get half the life out of that exterior thing, but then you're gonna be spending, you know, more in total, but you got to put off the cost, you know, the 7 to 10 years. And then that would be on a different schedule for maintenance then. So now that exterior is gonna have 20 more years to go, but the interior is only gonna have 10 more years. And you're gonna kind of keep on getting on a staggered schedule that, you know, maybe doesn't really matter, but it's just, you know, getting it all done as one project would be the cheapest overall cost to the city. Whether or not delaying it, you know, is something on that exterior part is something you want to do, you know, it is an option. What we could do, and part of this recommendation is you bid it with an alternate, so you can actually get both costs as bid, what they are, and maybe it either turns out you get a fantastic price on putting off the exterior work, and maybe then that difference is so significant it might be worth, you know, going that route. But then we'd actually have legit bid costs as opposed to us just estimating which way to go. And then you'd be able to make that final call, you know, once the bids are in.
And what do you think, Mike? I mean, are you better off, you know, splitting this among, I mean, 7 to 10 years from now, you're gonna have more residents that will be able to kind of split the cost, so it's not such an impact, or, you know, I mean, what are your thoughts as far as that goes? I mean, I know you had even plans as far as water treatment stuff, you know, facilities in the future where you're trying to get, you know, spread it out over the different generations sort of people that are gonna use it.
Yeah. Based on the planning that Jason and I have got together over the next 40 years, I would say that the better alternative would be to pay the higher cost, do the option 2. Part of the reason is that it's not gonna be that far out into the future before we're gonna have to add another well and another water tower. And right now, we've got this money, we've got it budgeted, we've got it planned, and I think if we were gonna consider anything other than just option 2, I think Jason's recommendation of let's bid both and see, I think is actually probably the most prudent thing to do. Let's bid both options, let's find out what comes in, because sometimes you get bids that are really, really good, and sometimes you get bids that are really, really bad. I mean, if the engineer's estimate's $825, but the bids come in at $1,025,000, I'm not so excited anymore. But, you know, the reverse could happen as well. But I mean, otherwise, as a standalone item, I mean, if it's $825 for 20 years versus more than half for, at best, half the life, there's also the issue of, you know, on a project like this, mobilization is always a big deal. I mean, any construction crew is, no matter what the work is, whether it's street work, water tower, wastewater plant, water treatment plant, whatever it is, they're gonna charge you tens of thousands of dollars just to show up.
Right.
So,
There's a resident that would like to speak. State your name and address for the record, sir.
Luke Merrill, 223 Broadway Street Southeast. I have a question. When was that water tower last painted?
So it only has the initial paint. So when it went up in 2003, that was it. Part of the programmed, you know, maintenance was to look at it 5 years ago, which is when we did the study in 2017.
It was kicked down, the can was kicked down the road, I'm assuming.
No, well, no, actually, the finding was,
Cleaned.
the original schedule was we were supposed to evaluate in 2017 and then do some kind of maintenance. Well, what we found in the study was it's looking pretty good. Let's put it off 5 more years because it looks like it'll last, and we'll reevaluate, and that's what we just did. So we did already by 5 more years than the base maintenance program was gonna be. And so now we're on that 20 years out instead of 15. So we've already gotten more life out of the base, like, expectancy. And so now when we did the evaluation, it's, okay, yep, that last 5 years, it has gotten across that line where now it's worth making sure it doesn't actually start having failures. And so we managed to buy an extra 5 years, but, you know, now it's time to act before it gets away from us.
Just, we
Okay.
did do some cleaning though at that time. I know we sucked out of the interior and we did a cleaning, you know, because you can see water towers in some cities that get all black and dingy. So there was an exterior cleaning at that time. We did suck out that sediment from the interior of the tank at that time too.
Yep, yeah, there was a few feet of sediment in there, which is very common, but vac that out. Actually had a diver go in the tank and evaluate all the welds and everything. That was the 2017, like, full depth evaluation, and now this one was rechecking where things have now progressed, so.
Okay, so the only thing that I see with that is, so I work with metal every day and paint and all that stuff, and I know that when metal rusts and you sandblast it and paint it again, it's never gonna last as long as it did the first time, as well as paint products nowadays are not built with the same chemicals, so they don't last nearly as long. So they're saying it's gonna last us 20 years. I can almost guarantee it won't. So I would rather see you do the spot treatment, because if you keep treating the spots, you're gonna have, everything else is gonna be, I don't know, I just don't think you're gonna get the 20 years out of it. The spot treatment would be a better option, working with rusty metal, working with paint. And of course, the contractors are gonna sell you the bigger job, but every time the same spots are gonna keep coming back and back. No matter if you do the full thing or you spot treat it, you're only gonna get 7 to 10 years. I would almost guarantee, even if you do repaint the whole thing. So,
That sandblasted one was new before they painted it, and that paint lasted 20 years.
yeah, but it's already, it's still got the stuff going on as soon as you sandblast it. Nothing lasts as long after you sandblast it as it does new.
Mayor, just for clarification, I don't believe we're sandblasting it in place and repainting it. It's actually a full removal and a replacement from the factory of the,
In option 2?
is that correct, Jason? Use the word removal. So is it using the same existing, or is it a replacement?
No, the metal would stay in place. This is, yeah,
is
full
a
removal of
sandblasting
the
and repaint?
coating and putting it back.
It won't last 20 years, I
so-
guarantee it.
So the life expectancy we're giving is our, experience with the products that we require, on the
Yeah,
hundreds
it's
of
not
tanks
your
that we do.
typical auto
Yeah.
motive enamel.
Most of it's got from Sherwin-Williams. I actually did research on it. It's a Sherwin-Williams base paint that they use, and they've used different solvents now that don't last as long because the EPA came down on them about it. So if this one lasted 20 years with repairs, I would personally guarantee that the new stuff ain't gonna last near that long. So that's my input on that. Use it for what you may.
We're just getting, we're gonna get, what the heck's the word I'm looking for? Thank you. We're gonna get bids on both of these, right?
I think staff is looking for the direction too. So we need to start, even though this is a project for 2023, we need to start working at the documents now, so we can get bids at a reasonable time. Otherwise, the later we go in the year, the more likely.
I think,
I favor getting bids.
I favor getting bids on both.
With an alternate, so we would bid one and alternate the other, so then we can evaluate both. That's what staff is looking for.
We're not pulling the trigger on this right now, we're just getting bids.
One other question for you. I mean, that Luke's point there at the end, I think, made some sense. I mean, that the original paint has only lasted us 19 years, right? So,
Right, and I guess,
well, it will be 20 years next year,
it'll be
I
the
guess,
20
right?
years.
But, so,
And that's generally where we try and end up
so
at
we
for
should
what
be,
life
yeah,
expectancy,
mirroring
but,
that, right? So-
we recoat, or, go through this process on many towers every year, and
Right.
those are the life expectancies that we see, these are averages.
Right. And then the last question I had was, I mean, what's the worst case scenario? I mean, if we wait, what's gonna fail? I mean, when you talk about failing, I mean, is that a danger to the drinking water, or, I mean, is it, what happens if we don't do anything, or if we do wait and push it off until it's, in extremely rough shape where it needs to be done, you know what I mean?
So if you're only talking the exterior, because, both options have the interior, the wet well specifically is the one that's, both of them are fully recoat that thing, because that's gonna be the highest risk one anyway. You start actually having leaks in your tank. So if we're only talking the exterior, you know, that's that topic of once that rust starts actually going through the metal, and you can't have metal left once you've sandblasted to have structural integrity of something to protect, well, now you're replacing metal, and that can get much more costly.
Yeah, I just was just kind of curious what the worst-case scenario is, so, yeah, and I think if you bid it out. with the
Well, and
alternate-
I guess the worst-case scenario, a full new tower is in the $4 to $5 million range.
Yeah, right.
And so, you know, the longer we can get this thing to last, you know, the better.
I favor bids.
Bidding both sounds like a great idea.
I think that makes the most sense, probably, and have an alternate.
And we got two numbers to look at. Make a
We
better,
good on that one, Ms. Wood?
Yes,
better
thank you, Mayor.
educated decision.
Decision next year.
We'll move on to E7 then, the residential equivalent connection, REC, charge assessment for SAC-WAC discussion.
So to staff's knowledge, the last time that we had the recs considered for our sewer access connection charges and our water access connection charges was in 2015. So this took some time for staff to all collaborate together, whether it was the building official, it was community development, it was finance, it was admin, and also engineering, excuse me, to look at this table to see if there should be recommended changes to be made. So what you have passed out before you is our current, the resolution 2015-118. That's our current assessment table. And this is for businesses. This is for commercial. So homes and residents are charged one SAC and one WAC connection charge, depending on what your usage of your business is. And that's what that table is before you, is how many of those you're charged for the business. And that's based upon usage of water and sewer and a lot of other things that go into that. So on the table that you have as a draft for the new, staff is recommending to add kennel floor drains and showers, which is by fixture units. We're looking to add bakery as a line item, although it will see food and drink, which food and drink previously was called restaurant. We feel that it's all encompassing and things have just changed in the world of food and restaurants now. Banquet hall. We reduced some of those categories, and then we increased the square footage to 2060. We did retitle barber to include beauty salon, salon spa, nails, and tanning. It used to previously be at 4 stations, and we felt that it was more encompassing to have that by also square footage, which was 700 square feet. Bingo hall. Let's see, we did change it so we didn't have all of the food on there, and then we said seafood and drink category. It used to be $16.50 for square feet, and we raised that to $20.60. Bar and grill was added under bowling alley to seafood and drink instead of having separate requirements with seating for that. And it was 3 alleys before, and now it's 6. We added butcher, as that was not within our table prior, and we put that at 2,000 square feet. On page number 2, we did retitle catering to also include meals to go, as we're seeing some restaurants are doing just that. They're not doing catering, but they don't have actual indoor seating. And we did say to seafood and drink on that one. Previous resolution, or table, excuse me, said to be determined. Let's see, we added church and worship, which to go by square foot is now 2,300 instead of 275 seats. Clinic, we have more reduced subsections on that and raised it to 2,150 square feet. We added community center, as that was not previously a line item. We moved dance to multi-use entertainment, and we have exercise now included in fitness, because fitness was all encompassing. Dealership was also added, and we put that at 3,250 square feet. Previous on our table, we had schools as broken down between like K through 12 and different types of schools. We now have one category called education, and we put the evaluation at 1,150 square feet. Food and drink, previously we were set at 10 seats per rec. Now it will be 900 square feet. We feel that that is much more fair of a system, because if you had a business model that you wanted to allow more space within your business, and not have the seats or have more seats in there, you were not judged fairly restaurant to restaurant. So we made that be 900 square feet. Also, we said that it did not matter if you were a bar, a restaurant, a grill, or what type of food establishment, you're now all under that same category. A big change that we are recommending is for food and drink establishments that have outdoor seating. Previously on the table, we had it calculated the same as indoor. We think in Minnesota that that's not fair, and we find that in other cities, as well as the Met Council, they're giving a 75% discount because it's only used approximately 1/4 of the year. So that's reflected in the new table. Funeral home used to be 770 square feet. We raised that up to 1,200 square feet. Gas station was added at 1,950 square feet. Mixed-use entertainment is new, and that includes that dance, billiards, outdoor gaming, video game rooms, indoor golf. Mobile home is now retitled to be modular or manufactured home, but we kept the units the same. Library, previously listed, is now called public library, and we did raise that to 3,950 square feet. Retail used to be 3,000 square feet, and we bumped that up to 3,050. We used to have assisted living and nursing home, and now we have that all together under specialty housing, which includes assisted independent living, 55-plus apartments, memory care, and nursing homes. Theaters, we expanded to include more options, just because there could be not only like a movie theater, but other types of theaters, and we found that that matched other cities more closely. And that is it. That's the substantive changes to this. We feel that that will be more business-friendly in some of the areas of Sac-and-Wac, especially to our food and drink establishments. And we feel that we are being competitive amongst our assessment charges.
The only one I see that I had a question about is the miniature golf.
Under multi-use recreation?
Yeah, it's under golf course. There's 18 hole, it's 3, then there's a 9 hole, it's 2, and then a miniature golf gets 3.
Sure.
I was just wondering why miniature golf would be the same as a 18-hole golf course.
They look at the amount of time spent there, but I agree. I think you probably have
And it's
less
seasonal.
drinking, which I think you're using the restroom facilities probably less. I would agree with that. We
Shouldn't it be
could put
3-3-2?
miniature golf under that multi-use recreation, and I actually might have put it there, but kept it where it was too, but let me just look. Yeah, well, I have indoor golf, so we could put miniature golf under that mixed-use entertainment, and then it would be at the 20,000 square feet. So then if you had other things, you know, like, I know in Cambridge has an indoor mini golf.
They have indoor?
Is that what you're saying?
No, they have outdoor. But, you know,
Isn't that an indoor one by the Caribou? Or
No, that's outdoor.
It's
Is that
outdoor.
outdoor?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Most of your miniature golf places up here will be outdoors, I would imagine, but I just thought that was a little high. It's the only one I thought.
Perhaps the recommendation would be to bring that down to one.
Yeah.
One unit.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
'cause typically you're gonna have a bathroom there, you know, but they're not watering their miniature golf course.
Correct. Good
They're
point.
not, you know,
It's artificial
So-
turf.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that is very fair.
I wonder though.
But yeah, everything looks,
I wonder if a
improvements
mini
for-
golf course got that higher rating because a mini golf course tends to have a lot of fountains and stuff like that. They have recreational water.
well, yeah, if they like got bumper boats, and stuff like that maybe, but
But even one that doesn't have the bumper boat will still have the fountains that, you know. some
most,
boats-
yeah, most of that's recycled.
Is that what that is? They're not running continuous water?
Just the pump just keeps.
So if we-
Rainwater.
If we agree with this, my recommendation is, previously this had been done by resolution. That is not the correct method. And this is probably hopefully, the last remaining thing that needs to be changed into city code that should have been in city code. So my recommendation is that we put it into the utilities section under 262. So it's implemented as a table within city code. That's where we have sewer charges and water charges called out, and we do reference rec charges for Sac and Whack. So my recommendation is that we put it there. So then it would be an ordinance amendment, but I do think that that's appropriate.
As long as you're changing Councilman Collison's worry, I would say, yeah, let's put it in there.
Sounds good to me.
Another thing that I'd like to bring up just quickly for discussion is, so we do have a food and drink establishment that is just filed for recently done their permit. Is there any appetite of council to have consideration for them to be evaluated on the new assessment table for their Sac and Whack? And this, I could say who, right? This would be for Dairy Queen. Dairy Queen's our most recent food and drink establishment. The numbers are considerably different if we look at doing it by seat count and counting all of their outdoor seating, which I think we all really enjoyed to see that they were having so much outdoor seating, but charging that as a one-to-one rate really brings their Sac and Whack charges really high. So staff would like to see that they be charged on the new table.
I would agree.
I would agree.
Yeah, I'm for that.
And so we'll move forward with that then, and if they've already paid that Sac and Whack fee, we will reimburse them to make sure that it's equivalent to the new table. Perfect, thank you.
I mean, we're done?
E8, the employee personnel policy annual update.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's been a while since I've been in one of these meetings, so I'll try to keep this quick as we're nearing the end of the night.
Is your mic on?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
She's just soft-spoken.
She's soft-spoken.
Low voice. The employee personnel policy is updated annually to reflect on current state and federal guidelines, and the updates have been cross-referenced with the city attorney and/or the League of Minnesota Cities reference guide to benefit the city and staff for legal purposes and the retention of employees. For the updates this year, in section 2, we have added resolution 2021-032 language, which is about the take-home vehicle for city staff if they drive a vehicle home. So this was approved back in 2021. It just, the verbiage wasn't put in the personnel policy yet. So that was just added for clarity.